say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. All right. Thank you. Once again, we thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for the opportunity of interacting with you in this way. It is a great gift for us to experience through each and every one of you the facets of the multidimensional crystal of creation that you are. And we are grateful for this opportunity of exchange. We would like to begin this transmission with the title, The Story Tree. Now, this is a permission slip that is kind of an interim neutral gear to something else that we have talked about. It goes hand in hand with it. You can use it however you wish once we explain how to use it. But the idea that we have talked about before that connects to this is the concept we have called the 13th step, which is the idea that understanding any change is a total change. Literally, if you are a new person in a new universe, you have a new history, and therefore, what may have been happening before is not something that actually ever happened to the new person you become. So the idea is understanding that you really are making that degree of change every single time you change anything. And in order to take conscious advantage of the fact that you really are at zero every moment and completely rewrite who you are, redefine who you are moment to moment, utterly and completely, we understand that for many individuals, because you are steeped in the process of change rather than having the concept of instantaneous change, we know that sometimes a process is necessary. So what we bring you in this transmission is part of the process, an interim step that you can use to practice shifting your energy in such a way so that perhaps one day, at whatever pace is comfortable for you, you can allow yourself to take full advantage of the fact that you're always changing utterly and completely into new people every moment in a new reality with a completely new history. But this will aid and assist you in creating a kind of neutral gear that allows you to shift a little bit more easily into that concept eventually and how to take full advantage of the structure of parallel realities. The story tree has to be done very precisely, and we will guide you in this precision through the explanation we are about to give. So if you are looking at your handout, the idea to begin with, if such things exist in your reality, is to start with what you might consider to have been in your life one of the more dramatic or profound or impactful negative experiences you have ever had. Whether it be from your childhood or last week, doesn't matter. The point is if you feel that you are still holding on to belief systems or memories of that experience and you no longer prefer them, then this can help you neutralize that experience, that idea. Because when you have a negative experience, and it may generate within you, especially when you are young, negative belief systems, then you start telling yourself a negative story about yourself. You start buying into the negative beliefs that may be generated from that initial negative experience. And when you create and generate that negative story, you tell yourself that story over and over and over again because that has now been ingrained within you, crystallized within your personality structure. And when you tell yourself that negative story, it reinforces the negative experience, which then reinforces the negative story, which then reinforces the negative experience, and around and around and around you go with seemingly no way out. But this permission slip offers you a potential way out through a graduated process of shifting the energy from negative to positive in the following way. Whatever it is you choose as that negative experience, whatever you choose to remember, whatever you choose to apply to this particular permission slip technique, this story tree structure, let yourself begin with that. And when you then have it in your mind as to what you would like to choose, break it up into the moments that were the most impactful within that experience. Whatever seems connected to that experience, start creating segments, little tableaus, little moments within it, Separate them out. Now, in the diagram you have before you, there are 3, just for the sake of convenience and expediency, but you can break it out into as many moments as you wish. Just make sure that they really are representative of some of the most impactful moments of that negative experience. When you were the saddest, when you were in the most pain, when you were the most angry, whatever it is, pick the ones that are truly the strongest moments of that negative experience. So, allow us to simply use an example as we go along to help illustrate the point a little bit more clearly. Let us just assume for the moment, even though this may have nothing to do with you personally, but again, to illustrate, that the negative experience you are calling forth or remembering is that your father beat you. And then that can be one of the elements, the beating itself, that negative experience. But then whatever is associated with that, break it out into the next moment. Let us say again, to perpetuate the illustration, that from that experience, that initial experience, you then went into your room and spent hours in pain, in anger, crying. That's another moment. List that as the next moment. And then let's say, because you were afraid to come out, the next moment is you stayed in your room so long that you didn't eat and you became very hungry. You were starving. That's another moment. So now you have, in this example, this 3 moments that paint the picture of this negative experience. The beating, the fear, the crying, the release, the sadness, the anger, and staying in the room, and now the physical experience of being very, very hungry and experiencing that pain. Start with the initial moment, what we will call the negative scenario, that is A, moment A, and beginning with that, allow yourself to take that moment and start to just breathe through it, see it, replay it, breathe through it, start to neutralize it, start to step back a little bit from it, and start to see that moment replaying as if it's happening not to you. That it is more like a movie that you really don't have a strong connection to. You're watching the scenario play out, but you're watching it happen to someone else. I understand that can still cause stress, but allow yourself to remove, to breathe, to remove, to breathe. A little bit more, to neutralize, neutralize, neutralize all the emotions that went with that particular moment, so it just becomes a tableau running like a silent movie. Kill all the sound in it, dampen all the sound in it. Just see the images. Don't attach any meaning to it. Start to neutralize it. Now, before we go on, this is crucial, this is very important, this is one of the things we're talking about how this must be done very precisely. Understand that while you are doing this, this in no way, shape, or form is meant to be a denial of what happened. So don't think that this is just a glossing over, so that you simply get to the point where you say, oh yes, that didn't happen to me. Acknowledge that it did. You're not letting that go for the moment. This is not the 13th step right now, where you shift so abruptly that you know you have such a different history that this never happened to the new person that you are. That's not where we are at right now. This is an interim gear. This is a shifting process. So for the moment, understand, this is not a denial of what happened. But as you begin to neutralize and breathe through this, get to a point where you can settle with it a little bit. And then allow yourself to use your imagination and call upon the higher mind connection and start painting a picture that you would prefer instead of the one that originally happened. Maybe, again, to continue this illustration, the image goes from the beating to having your father hug you in a loving way, very proud of you, hugging you, loving you, and you feeling the embrace, the support, the love. Now, again, here's another very precise energy that needs to happen in this. Because it's not about saying this is what you would have preferred, not past tense, because that can lead to the experience or the state of being you would call regret. Keep it present. This is what you prefer now. as a tableau, as a scenario to replace the other one with. So keep it present, not past tense. And as you paint this picture, this replacement picture, feel that energy, feel what that is like, not what it would have been like, what it is like to experience that hug, that love, that support from that individual. Until it feels like it's starting to sink in, even just a little bit. It doesn't have to be all the way. Just change the energy to something more positive by using that tableau, that scenario, that visualization as a guide. And once you feel that you have that present in you as an energy, as a state of being, then allow yourself to go back to the negative B scenario, being in your room, crying, so on and so forth. Bring that up into neutralization just as you did with scenario A. Breathe through it. Start to see it. Start to dissociate from it. Again, not a denial. Just an energetic dissociation. Neutralize it. Let the sound go away. Just see it like a silent movie. Bring it to neutralization. But now, instead of doing exactly the same thing that you did with scenario A, go back to scenario A while that's in neutral, while B is in neutral, and look at scenario A and say, all right, I'm seeing this now. It's very different than the negative scenario. I'm experiencing this now in the present, the love, the support, the hug. Now, ask this question and do this projection. Now that you have the new scenario, the positive scenario A, how does scenario A actually change scenario B? Because now you have a completely new scenario that would lead to something else entirely than what it led to before, where you wound up in the room crying, feeling alone, feeling hurt, feeling angry, feeling sad, whatever it was. Now you have a new scenario. So what in your imagination would be the logical extrapolation from that? Create a whole new scenario B, not going up this way from the negative one, but going across from A as to what might be the next logical expression, the next logical scenario from what is going on in scenario A. Once you have that, a new scenario B that is positive, uplifting, loving, creative, whatever it is, whatever it needs to be, whatever it logically seems to be from what you created in scenario A, now do the same for scenario C. Go up with scenario C from the negative to the neutralization place, breathe through it, dissociate, neutralize, neutralize, neutralize. But again, instead of just continuing up this way, now go from what you created in scenario B in the positive level and go across and say, well, now what would be the next logical thing in scenario C that goes from that? And start going across to as many scenarios as you created until they are all a logical extension and extrapolation from scenario A, all in the positive vein. Once you have done that, then let the energy of all of those new scenarios, the positive ones, go up to a point to create and see that they are a new positive story that you are now telling yourself with different energy, and allow that to now emerge into a positive experience in life that will now reinforce the positive story, which will reinforce positive experiences, which will reinforce the positive story, and on and on. And now you're creating a new cycle, telling yourself a positive story. Again, understand very precisely, this is not a denial of what you believe may have happened in the negative context. It's not a glossing over. It is, however, a dissociation from the effect, the energetic effect of what happened, so that you can still be aware of that as part of your history, but you can dissociate from the negative effect to such a degree by practicing this over and over again and creating a positive version of this idea and a positive energy and a positive effect, so that you start really telling yourself a positive story about yourself, so that you disconnect from the negative story you were given. It doesn't take away the scenario, but you start no longer feeling the negative effect of the negative story. You start feeling the effect of the positive story. And this creates a conundrum, a paradox within you at that moment. Because while you can still see the negative tableau, you start actually feeling the positive energy. And again, very precisely, don't assume that this means that you're supposed to feel that you prefer the negative, that the positive feelings you're feeling while you're still viewing the negative doesn't mean that you're supposed to say, yes, that was okay for that to have happened. That's not what we're saying. But it is a technique that over time, by doing it again and again, will start to build up a positive energy within you where you will start automatically telling yourself a more positive story about yourself, and perhaps eventually you will allow yourself to do this strongly enough that this can function as a neutralized shifting of gears to allow you to begin to experience truly more and more of the effect of consciously shifting to parallel realities, where you now know you are telling yourself such a positive story and guiding yourself through these parallel reality changes so naturally that you now can begin to consciously feel that you really are a different person, really in a different reality, with really a different history, to whom the negative scenario never occurred. But this particular technique is the middle point of that. And it doesn't have to happen right away. You can practice it as long as you need to, at whatever pace you need to, at whatever rate you need to create that shifting of that effect in your energy, because that's really all it's all about. Just create that energy shift so you start knowing how to automatically start feeding yourself positive stories about who and what you are, and can more and more and more and more detach from the idea that it really doesn't matter what has happened in the past. It's not a disavowing of it, but it's a way to start using it to build a positive energy in your life, a positive direction, a positive path, knowing that that scenario, as negative as it may have been, is still capable of delivering a positive and beneficial effect and energy in your lives, because you are capable of making this transformation. Is this clear? Yes. All right. So, allow yourself to take this permission slip, make it your own, use it however, whenever you wish. If your imagination and your higher mind wishes to alter it a little bit to fit you, then by all means let it do so. Go with the flow. This isn't rigid, it isn't strict, but it is precise in the ways that we have outlined it. So remember, it's not a denial of what happened in any way, shape, or form. Keep it present in the new scenario. It's not, this is what I would have preferred, but this is what I prefer now. And allow yourself to move forward knowing that it's not in any way, shape, or form an endorsement or a condoning of the negative, but it is an opportunity to release yourself from the effects of the negative by shifting the energy in your life and telling yourself the story of who you truly prefer to be. Does that make sense? All right, because you all contain that probability, that ability, that awareness to know your true selves, who you really are, your fundamental frequency, your essence. And the idea is to also remember throughout this entire permission slip when you are doing it, that any negative belief you may have about yourself, and this again doesn't mean that you can't have an honest assessment of where you may be going negative in life, but any negative belief is not really fundamentally capable of being true about you. You are an aspect of creation. You have the ability to create negative scenarios and experience them, but these are just projections. These are scenarios and have nothing to do with the actual representation of your core true self being an infinite, indestructible, eternal creator. That can never go away. That can never change. No matter what you may have been told, no matter what story you may have painted for yourself, those things can never change because they are a part of the structure and nature of existence, and so are you. And that will never go away. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. How do you feel? Good. All right. Thank you for allowing us to share this interim tool with you. And at this time, we thank you for the gift of your sharing. And in return now, how may we be continuing the service to you. You may begin with your questions and statements if you wish.
But it'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. We thank you for the co-creation of this interaction, the allowance of this transmission, and the gift that you give to us of allowing us to experience each and every one of you as another facet of the multidimensional crystal of creation. We will begin this transmission by reminding you that this is called substitute teacher, and the substitute teacher in question is you. So this transmission will be handled a little bit differently than has been handled before. We will be bringing through what has been termed a first contact trainee from our civilization, a male child that in our counting of years would be about 10.5 years of age, but in your counting would be about 13. This trainee has not yet chosen to have an incarnation on any planet that he may ultimately contact as a first contact specialist. And because we are guiding this trainee, we have chosen your world for him to have his first interaction with. But understand that when we do choose to make contact with a new civilization, we always also choose to experience at least one life in that civilization, so that through that life experience, we will have a deeper understanding and familiarity with that civilization, so that we will not be too, shall we say, alien to one another. But this trainee really has no knowledge of you, no understanding of your ways, your customs, your ideas, your concepts, your experiences. So this trainee will be asking questions of you. First and foremost, before we actually introduce this trainee, we will reverse the way in which these transmissions are usually done. The first part of this transmission, before what you call your lunch period, will be a question and answer period. We will then, after your lunch, introduce the trainee to you. Nania! Making sure you're awake. This is how this will go. During your lunch period, or sometime around, before we resume this transmission with the trainee, you will coordinate, organize, and choose 4 other volunteers from the gathering who wish to come to you and volunteer to interact with the trainee, making yourself also the 5th one. Do you follow me? So that by the time we resume this transmission and introduce the trainee, there will be 5 people from your gathering who will interact with the trainee. All right? All right. Now, one of the reasons why we are introducing this trainee to you is not only for the purpose of allowing this child to gain some experience in their first interactions with other cultures, other civilizations, but also to give you an opportunity in being asked questions about your reality to see how much you know. Because one of the best ways to learn is to teach. Therefore, in the trainee asking the questions he will ask of you about your world and your ways, you get an opportunity to explain to someone who has no comprehension of them how things work on your world. There may be a little bit of confusion, but we will see how it goes. You may find yourself doing a lot more explaining than you think, because even though many things seem very obvious and familiar to you in your reality, they are not so in other realities at all. And you may find some of that alienness leaking through from the trainee who really doesn't understand what you have created on your world and how you go about experiencing your lives, because they are very different than the way that we experience life in our civilization on many levels. And though there are some similarities, we will see what bridges and links can be created when you are offered an opportunity to deal with an extraterrestrial being who is truly new to your ways. But for now, we can begin with the questions and answers for those who volunteer to come up and ask what they may. We thank you for allowing us to reflect to you the knowledge that on some level of your being you already know, so that we now remind you that we are only reminding you of what already exists within you. But in remembering, in awakening, in the dream of physical reality, thus you will experience more intention, more conscious manifestation, more joy.
And just say one thing, and that is that, I've been with Darryl and Bashar for many, many years, and to this day, the channeling to me is just amazing. That he can bring through this individual, this consciousness, this being that just is really so different from his own personality and is so wise and interesting and funny and
You caught that.
whoops.
So different.
But you are becoming more and more like me. It's been a long 15 years, yeah. But you are becoming more and more like him. It's really kind of amazing. I'm getting in deeper and deeper and deeper into it. No, they really are. They're both fabulous. So anyway, I think it's like magic. So I'm just going to turn it over to you because I know you have some special things to say to the audience and to everybody that's joining us. So I'll just say thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. Before we start today, I just wanted to explain that this is going to be a little bit of a different format than we've ever done before. And so I wanted to let you in on exactly why it's happening this way. When I first became aware of the fact that I was going to channel, which was 28 years ago, I, at that moment, understood from Bashar that my original agreement with him in this life to do this was for 9 years. The rest of it was really kind of up to me. Within 9 years, he felt he would have delivered the basic information that you needed, but that there obviously was more information to give and different perspectives that he could share with everyone. But it was really in my hands and up to my schedule at that point for how long we continued after that. And like I said, now it's been 3 times the length of the original agreement. So as April kind of hinted at in a sort of a backhanded way, just kidding. There has been a lot of changes and a lot of evolutions going on in the channeling since I started, one of which is also common for a lot of channels, is that the energy of the channeling does sort of start to rub off on you, does sort of start to blend in to your personality. And one of the whole points of giving the information and channeling the information is not only to help all of you to use the information to make whatever changes you need in your life, but also for the channel to sort of evolve and develop in a manner that allows them to become more like the entity that they're channeling in whatever way that means, as a human on Earth. And so over time, there has been more and more blending. Things have changed. The energy has changed a lot within me. And I'm also, which, some of you know and many of you don't know, aside from the channeling, I've also been in the film business for 30 years. That's my other career and one of my excitements. And as things change in terms of what I'm doing there and blending more energy from the channeling into the things that excite me, I find that the energy frequency that comes through me is changing more and more to the point where in my daily life, in a sense now, I'm sort of channeling more and more, just being in that state more and more. And I find that because I'm now in that state more and more on a daily basis, going into the altered state to do the channeling in this way to allow Bashar to translate his thoughts to you actually amps the energy up so much that I can only sustain it for a couple of hours a day. If I go beyond that, I find that I actually become kind of disconnected from physical reality, and it takes me a while to sort of come back down. So in seeing that these kinds of changes were happening in me and sort of wanting to hang around physical reality and play a little longer and know what I'm doing and not walk into walls, we had to kind of, April and I had to kind of sit down and sort of figure out ways in which we could still deliver all the information to you that we wanted to, and that we could allow Bashar to, while at the same time allowing me to adapt and adjust to the changes going on within the energy within me. So what we have come up with is kind of a two-part idea. We have actually videotaped part of the session today on another day, a previous day, so that we can be assured that all the information that Bashar needs to deliver to you on this subject will be delivered. And so how we're kind of going to break this up is the main body of the idea will be delivered by Bashar on video to you at the beginning of this session. And then after that, I will come and I will channel live and let him interact with you directly so that you can ask him questions about what was in the video or whatever it is that's important to you to ask him. And we'll do the same thing after lunch as well. So this is kind of becoming the new format where in order to get a full 4 hours of information to you, we're going to be doing 2 hours of it as a video and 2 hours of it live, but break it up so that you can get some of the video, some of the live. And that way you can really use the information and interact with him and know that he's still there and that you can deal with him directly for whatever questions or issues might come up in the information that's delivered in the video. So, we're excited to see what this new format will do. And we hope that you will still enjoy it. It was, at least at this point, one of the ways we could figure out in order to get all the information we needed to get to you. Does anyone have any questions for me about this structure or what's going to happen today with this? No? You're all clear on that? Don't be afraid. You can ask questions. Sometimes I can answer questions too. It'll be my new career. Yeah.
What does it feel like when you're in that energy?
When I'm actually channeling, the way I usually have described it is it feels like I'm falling into a very energetic daydream. I know there's something going on, but I don't hear the words. It's as if, when you have a very strong daydream and somebody walks in the room and they have to call your name like 5 times before you even hear them. It's like that. The conversation that's going on for me might as well be happening a mile away. The words are very secondary. But I'm getting energy, I'm getting emotions, I'm feeling what they're feeling. Sometimes I'll get abstract or concrete images of whatever it is they might be describing. The concept will sink within me, and I'll be able to use it in my life, and that's where I get the energy and the information that makes changes within me. But afterwards, when I come out of it, it's like the whole thing kind of fades like a dream. And I don't really remember what happened. I don't hear the words. I don't know what he said. But I'll get the basic idea that I need in my life, and I'll know that on a general level what the concepts were that he covered for you. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anyone else before we go? Yeah.
I was just wondering, how do you know what your
I
next
don't.
talk is going to be about? Does he?
I often don't.
Oh, really?
Sometimes we ask Bashar for these things, what do you think you want to talk about? And he'll do a download or give us some idea or a title, a little bit ahead, obviously, because we need to advertise to you what it is he's going to talk about. But a lot of times, aside from a title, I haven't a clue what he's going to say. These are never planned, they just come through, bang, and it's there.
And aside from this, how does he speak to you?
There have been a few times when Bashar has spoken to me on a personal level. The way it usually happens for me, though, is that because the connection is just there between us, I just get a telepathic hit. The only reason I need to go into the altered state is so it can translate into language for you. But whenever I've had communications directly from him, it's just in an instant. I use this example to sort of illustrate what happens. Early on in the channeling, I was very, very curious to ask him about how their spacecraft work, how they travel from star to star and all that. The information was downloaded in about 1 second. It took me 3 hours to write it out. So it's that kind of intense concentration of information that happens on my end. And that's also why when I'm in the channeling state, time for me is very collapsed. My experience of this event will probably be 1/3 to 1/2 the amount of time that you're actually experiencing. So that when I come out of it, it's almost kind of startling to me how much time has actually passed. I'm not experiencing that at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. What did the conversation that you had was it a conversation that you had with Bashar to go past the original 9 years, or was that
Both. It was a choice I made personally because I felt there was more opportunity for things to be explained in different ways. Plus, this is part of my excitement. I enjoy the state. But also it was a conversation with him about, what it is that could still be delivered. I've had 4 dream conversations with him. And in the whole span of the channeling, I can only remember 4. I may have had more, but I can only remember 4. And when I have a dream conversation with him, it's not like a normal dream. It's literally like you and I are talking right now, and we're somewhere, I don't always know exactly where, and the whole entire dream is just him and I communicating about something. So some of the idea of figuring out how we would proceed with this happened in those dream conversations. Some of it is just what's happening with my life, and I just get hits and downloads about different options, and sometimes it's just the product of discussing things and seeing what feels right. So, yeah. Oh, you've never heard a description of Bashar?
You see it.
I see him as he describes himself. I don't know how much you know about a lot of this, and you can certainly ask him anything you want to about this in one of the questions. They describe themselves as a hybrid species, a combination of, I guess for lack of a better term, the beings that we often refer to as the Greys and us. So they're about 5 feet tall on average. Their skin is about paper white or whitish gray. Their eyes are a little bit larger. Males have no hair, females do. It tends to be white, although he said there are exceptions. They're very slight. And so they're that sort of typical, small nose, small mouth, small ears, slightly larger head, slightly larger eyes, but not too far off from us. But that's sort of how he's described their civilization. There is male and female, although at this point, they're evolving like we're evolving, and their civilization is close to becoming non-physical. And so there are not as many physicalities to the things that they do at this point anymore. They don't eat, they don't sleep. They get their energy just directly, But in time, ideally, we'll be able to see them face to face. And then, anything else before we start? Yeah.
You said as you raise your vibration.
It's not so much that Bashar comes through, it's that I'm becoming more my version of him in life. And so I'm not coming down from the level as often or as much as I do when I go into the channeling state. So my daily life, the things that I do, just like all of us, allow me to really just flow that energy more, that vibration more into the things I do. We can all channel. We all do channel. Channeling is a natural state that we can all access. It's when you do that thing that you love to do, when you don't notice the passage of time, when you're totally in your passion, when an actor becomes the character, when a singer is lost in the song, that's a channeling state. So we're all channels. It just depends on what you do with it. But the idea is that the more you stay in that state, the more it changes you. And the more you get to a point where that's your natural state, and you find that you simply don't go back. You won't go back to whatever it is that you were doing, before. And things change in your life, things change in your body, things change in your energy. So the more that I let that come through, I find that I need to just keep the balance for myself in terms of, making whatever pace is happening as a natural evolution for me. And in terms of bringing him through, about 2 hours of letting that amplified energy rub off on me is about all I need at the moment to be able to apply it in my life. If I just kept doing it, if I went longer than that, it would kind of just be sort of like filling a cup over the brim and it's all over the place and I can't use what's spilled. So now it's regulating itself kind of in a timing thing to give me like a 2-hour shot each time I do this, and that takes me a long way. So otherwise, if I go longer, I'm actually kind of dizzy for a while and I don't really know where I am or what I'm doing. So, which may be sort of not unusual for me, but yeah.
Curious about your dream state, being interconnected. Since you started channeling, has your dreams changed at all?
Yes, quite a bit. It will just depend on what's going on. But like I said, I've had, dream communication with him. I've had more dream communication recently, especially with people that have recently passed on that I knew. So it has definitely opened me up in that area as well as a lot of other areas. Yeah. And I'm sorry, yeah, you had a question.
Do you ever feel that the channel's like disturbed or disrupted by like another source?
When I'm channeling? I wouldn't say disturbed or disrupted, no. There are definitely other presences that sometimes wish to say something, but Bashar will usually be the one to facilitate that. So he'll kind of act as the person to sort of guide how any other energy might want to express itself through me. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you.
Have we turned the corner with our experience with Bashar now that you tell us about the 2-hour format? So this is it? Are you coming back to like a...
No, I won't go back to it's about looking at it as an expansion, as opposed to losing something. Because the idea is that anything that's going on within a change within me, within this channeling, and anything that you attract yourself to come to, you can use that as a marker that you're changing too, that this is kind of a milestone for you. And so it's an opportunity to use whatever is being changed and apply it in your own life, knowing that it's a sign that you yourself might be on a higher level, and to look at it that way. And as Bashar says, if you look at it in a positive way, you'll get a positive effect out of it. So don't look at it as a loss, look at it as an opportunity to... I know. No, I know. No. It's not going anywhere. Let's just put it this way. It's being delivered in a different format. And I think that that's going to also lead to other things that I think will actually allow the energy and the information to expand in ways that we are not able to allow it to expand now by sticking to an older format. So we're always exploring new ways to get the information to you. And we have a lot of different ideas and projects that we've discussed with Bashar about how some of this new information is going to be coming to you that are actually really kind of exciting. And we need to kind of move in that direction to really allow the information to be delivered in a way that will now work for the changes going on in all of us. Yeah, and then I think we probably need to get started.
Have you ever been afraid at all in all this process? And if so, what did you do?
I've never been afraid about this process. I've certainly had fear in my life about other things, and that's gotten less and less and less and less. I mean, even this is a good example, the whole idea of what's going on with, the weather and stuff like that, because certainly I'll get hits or ideas about whether or not I should be concerned about being in sunny California and deciding to deliberately fly toward a hurricane. But I'll have an ability to tap into the idea that if I allow myself to explore what's going on with that feeling, I'll find a way to find a place for why that feeling is there and what it actually means. And in this case, it really had to do with exactly how we needed to decide to be here in this space and exactly what it is we needed to do over the course of the next days. And once that was settled, all that concern went away. So it really was, we're safe, everything's fine. I wouldn't be doing, if I really, really had a hit that there was something dangerous about this, we wouldn't be here, none of us would be here. So in that we went forward with it, but with a hit that we needed to just look at some things and make a little adjustment in the energy to make sure that everything would be the way it needs to be, then as soon as that happened, everything fell into place. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, is developing a better sense of that barometer, that internal barometer about when you feel something, to understand that it's not necessarily immediately negative. You just have to explore what it is that it's trying to deliver to you and figure out how it applies to what needs to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and let the video begin so that we can get on with letting you hear Bashar. And then I will be back as soon as the video is done, and Bashar will come through live and talk to you and interact with you with regard to your questions. And I really, really want to thank you for being here today and allowing us to be here today. And I hope you get a lot out of this new format. So thanks for going along with us in this new experiment and going to a new level with it all. Thanks.
All right, I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right, thank you. Once again, we thank you for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance you have given to us in allowing us to experience each and every one of you as one of the facets of the multidimensional crystal of creation. We would like to begin this transmission that has the title, Think Outside the Box. Now, we understand this has a particular meaning on your planet, and it doesn't mean that we can't also address the usual meaning you have given it, which has to do with the idea of expanding your creativity. But what we're doing today with that particular phrase is something quite a bit different. This particular idea is something that you can use as a permission slip specifically designed to allow your consciousness to move halfway between your physical mind and your higher mind. Literally move your consciousness so that it exists at a halfway point between the two. To begin to allow you to experience a different sense of balance and connectivity to both the higher mind and the physical mind, and to put you in a specific state that will allow you more understanding of how to be observing from a neutral place, which can serve you in many situations and circumstances in your day-to-day reality. As you practice this more and more, you will find that you will begin to sense more strongly the altered state that goes hand in hand with this particular permission slip exercise. And it will allow you not only more experience with neutrality, but more ability to connect experientially with your higher mind, to receive more clearly the communication from your higher mind, so that you can pass it along from your midpoint down into your physical mind and allow the physical mind to apply the communications and messages from your higher mind into your physical day-to-day reality to create more efficacy of utilizing the formula and the tools that we have shared with all of you, that we call the instruction manual. So, let us begin. Allow yourselves, as we describe this, to become comfortable. This doesn't have to be a deep meditation at the moment, but this, if you go along with it a little bit, will allow you to begin to experience this altered state. It might be a little, it might be a lot, that's up to you. But go with it as we describe it so that you can begin to understand what this entails and allow you to repeat it for yourself when you wish. Are you ready? All right, so here we go. Imagine, if you will, for the moment, that you are standing inside a structure that you might typically refer to as a warehouse. It's large and mostly empty. There's nothing in it except one thing, a box. Now, you can allow this box to look like whatever you wish. You can allow the warehouse to look like whatever you wish, but it should be a large, empty space. There can be light coming in or not, it doesn't matter. There can be support beams and posts in it or not, it doesn't matter. But the box is the only thing in it besides you. Now, we would suggest, but again, it's up to you, that the box be made out of something clear that you can see inside it. Glass, plastic, whatever you wish. It can have a frame around it, but it might be easier for you to follow along if you can actually allow the box to be transparent in some way, shape, or form. So, here you are in this warehouse with this empty box, this transparent box. Doesn't have to be too big, doesn't have to be too small. Something you could probably carry if you had to. Maybe a couple of feet on a side. But again, up to you. Now, as you stand in this warehouse, just stand there and start to think your normal thoughts. You think about this, you think about your day, you think about your life, you think about the people in it, you think about certain circumstances and situations in your life. You think about a trip you're going to take. Anything you wish to think about that is typical for you to think of. Your work, your play, your friends, your family. Anything at all that you have thoughts about, no matter whether they are positive or negative. Just take a moment and review those thoughts. Now, as you go through those thoughts, one at a time, allow yourself to imagine that you take a thought out of your head and put it in the box. Now, once the thought is in the box, it can look like anything. It can look like a light moving around. It can look like smoke. Whatever you wish it to look like. It can look like a ball. It can look like a cube. Whatever you want to represent that thought by. It can be different colors, different shades. Just see it in the box. Then take the next thought you were thinking of and put that in the box. And the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. Get to a point, whether or not you have a specific idea of your thoughts, get to the point where you simply understand and imagine that all of your thoughts are inside the box and you can see them through the clear sides of the box. Maybe they're in there moving around. White smoke, dark smoke for positive, negative, different colors of cubes or balls. Whatever it is, lights moving around. See that all of your thoughts have been put inside the box and you can observe them. So now, at this moment, you're not having any other thoughts. You are just observing your thoughts in the box. That's all you're doing is just looking at the box. And you're seeing that all your thoughts are over there in the box. That's it. There's no other thoughts going on. You're just looking. You're just observing. You're not thinking about the box. You're not thinking about the thoughts in the box. You are just watching it. observing it neutrally, objectively. You may understand, you may know from a certain point of view that they are your thoughts, but keep it on the level of just observing them in the box. At this point, you are in a state of observance, just observance. The warehouse is big and empty. There's the box. The thoughts are inside it, sitting still or moving around, and there's just you looking at the box. That's it. Now, as you are observing the box full of thoughts, again, no thoughts involved within you, you start to move away from the box, farther and farther. You can back away, you can walk away and look over your shoulder, doesn't matter. As long as you know the thoughts are still in the box and you're not thinking about the warehouse, you're not thinking about where you're going, you are just moving away from the box, just observing the inside of the warehouse, observing the box. And then you go to the warehouse door. You open the warehouse door and you step outside the warehouse. It can be a small door, it can be a big door, doesn't matter. As long as when you step outside, you can still see the box inside the warehouse. Just back away, keep the door open. You're now outside in a much bigger space. You're now seeing the warehouse from the outside, but also seeing the box inside it and seeing the thoughts in the box. As you stand now outside of the warehouse, be it day, be it night, be it warm, be it cold, be it dry, be it rainy, doesn't matter. You are still just observing. You're not thinking about the day. You're not thinking about the warehouse. You're not thinking about the box and the thoughts in it. You are just observing the day, observing the warehouse, and observing that there is a box inside with your thoughts in it. You're just looking. You're just watching. That's all you're doing. You have no thought about it, no feeling about it. It's just there. It's just what it is. You know those are your thoughts. You know that's a box. You know that's a warehouse. You know you're outside. But that's all. You're just looking. You're just observing. And now you just stand there for a moment. Just continue to observe. Nothing more. And allow yourself now, without thinking about it, just to feel the state of neutral observation that you're in. At this point, you are literally in an altered state when you get used to doing this that is representative of being halfway in your consciousness between the physical and the higher mind. The physical mind is back in that box. The higher mind is somewhere up there in the sky. But you are just observing that you're standing where you're standing. You just know you're halfway. You don't have to think about the higher mind. You don't have to think about the physical mind. You're just looking at everything that you can see. Just looking, just observing. No thought about it, no feeling about it. It just is. It just is. It just is. And that's all that it is. As you practice this and get more used to this particular altered state of observation, neutral observation, halfway between your physical and higher mind, you can begin to experience knowing yourself more clearly, becoming a more transparent conduit for communication from the higher mind to pass through you to the physical mind, to the thoughts in the box. But you are just observing it. You're just watching the process of communication in energy coming from the higher mind, from the sky, from the world around you, and passing through you into the warehouse, into the box, to the physical mind. You're just watching this. You have become literally nothing more than a conduit for that information, for that communication, for that connection. You're just observing it happen. There is nothing to think about. You're just watching it happen. This will allow you to function more in the channeling state on a daily basis as you follow your passion to the best you can with no insistence on the outcome and remain in a positive state, going into this particular altered state at the halfway point by thinking outside the box and not thinking at all, but observing, watching, just knowing, just seeing. You can then allow yourself at your own pace when you're comfortable to say thank you to the day, to go back into the warehouse, to say thank you to the warehouse, to that space that allows you this sense of removal and yet still be attached in the way that you need to. You can say thank you to the box that is holding your thoughts, and at whatever rate and whatever way you wish to, you can imagine those thoughts going back into you. If there are some thoughts that you feel you would rather remain in the box, that's okay too. Because again, you will know they're there. If you ever really want to reclaim them, you can, but you don't have to if they are not vibrationally compatible with who you prefer to be now that you have been in this observational halfway point state. If you decide that there are some that you would prefer to remain in that little box in the warehouse, then you can see them in whatever way, shape, or form you wish, fading, 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 until the box is clear once again. They will always be there to call back into form, but for now, let them fade. And feel the lightness of the thoughts that come back to you. Now that you have begun to see your thoughts from an observational neutral point of view, from an altered state halfway between your typical physical experience and your higher mind, so that you can function in your life as a clearer conduit of information from the higher mind, which is a language of energy, which your body translates as passion, creativity, love, curiosity, attraction, and which it is important to answer with physical action. Because while energy is the language of the higher mind, physical action is the language of physical reality. And if you're not actually acting on the information, the communication, the passion, vibration that is sent from the higher mind, you're not actually taking a physical action to represent the fact that you have received it and acknowledge it, then you are not speaking the language of physical reality. And thus the higher mind knows that you're not really hearing it. And therefore, why should it send something more when you're not willing to act on what it has already sent? But doing this exercise outside the box of your thoughts, just observing them, just looking at them and not thinking about them, will put you in a state that will allow you better receptivity for that communication from the higher mind. You will be a clearer channel, a clearer conduit of your own path. And you will flow more easily, more effortlessly in life, as life flows more easily and effortlessly through you. So, allow yourselves to breathe this in and breathe it out. Make it your own. If your imagination decides to alter it a little bit, that's fine. But again, remember, putting your thoughts in the box is about not thinking about them anymore. It's just observing them. There they are, over there. That's all you do in that exercise, is recognize, there they are, over there. Here I am, here.